Well, today in the shop, big block Chevy. Now, if you're new here, this tunnel ram 454 was originally in this sweet 56 Chevy wagon, and it's going to be going in my Nova. Now, when it was in this car, it was very tight. It was attached to this transmission, 700R, and it had some sort of leak. Now, I believe it was an oil leak, and it seemed like it was coming right down the center, the rear of the engine here. So as you can see, I had the oil pan off in the car, gobs of silicone. It's got just a little bit of oil there. Otherwise, I mean, all the plugs in the back look okay. I did have my little pointer, my Leatherman. There's a little spot right here. The silicone, I mean, it was here. Oh, yeah, right there. The silicone is not great. So what we're gonna do, I thought we're gonna check for oil leaks, obviously, that's the plan. And I thought to myself, well, let's make a little like kind of redneck run stand. My hope is it's nothing crazy. I did put a new rear seal in it. I put a new oil pan on, but the oil pan seal I put on was the 3-piece, which I hate. So I'm thinking I might just put a 1-piece on anyways. But we're gonna fire this thing up on this stand and just see what exactly the problem is. Now, I mean, a run stand's pretty simple. You need fuel, you need air, well, we got that, and you need a little bit of electricity, and some sort of cooling system. So we're gonna go ahead and just use this. We might put a block of wood or something so it doesn't roll away, and we'll get her fired up. Now, this thing was just running, not great. It's got some accelerator pump issues, such as they don't work, and a couple of vacuum leaks, but we'll get all that figured out. So that's the plan. Step one, I'm going to go ahead and put this ring gear on. I got some brand new bolts. We'll get that together. I'll get the tripod set up, and we'll start hooking up the radiator, see where we're going to hang that. And I do have the headers. I'll probably put a set of headers on this thing just so it directs the exhaust somewhere. And we'll start hooking it up and hopefully fire this thing up and find the leak. I'm hoping it'll be like real easy. The oil pan isn't leaking, I won't take it off, but I feel like obviously that's going to be the hardest point. Mind you, I don't know. I did have it running and it's not oily. Oil pan's like fine, and I haven't brake cleaned it. This is how it is. And you'd think if it was leaking from there, it would leak all down here, but maybe there's no leak and I'm just dreaming. We'll find out together. So we've got the motor spun around just a little bit, but the exhaust is on both sides. I took off this, this is the fuel line, which I bent just slightly, but it flows, so not ideal, but for this test it'll be fine. Looks like there's no holes in it, so I don't think it'll leak. That just joins the little rail together that I made. We are having an issue. This front carburetor has no accelerator pump. It's just stuck. It's not leaking, so I'm hoping and take it apart. Sometimes you can take the, all it's in here is a little diaphragm, and as you rock the throttle, it puts a lever and forces a little bit extra fuel in right in that transition. Well, it's not working. Very common they get full of junk or whatever it may be. I don't think I've ever had these carburetors apart. The back one works fine. This one, not so much. So we're gonna take that apart real quick. I did take the gauges out of the car. There's gonna be just a little, right there, that's for the water temperature, and then the oil pressure I believe is on the oil filter in this situation. So we'll get that set up real quick. I'm gonna peel this float bowl off. We'll see what's inside there. Hopefully it's nothing too crazy. We just blow to some air and some brake clean. Hook up the 2 sensors. Distributors in, all that is good. The timing's fine on this one, so there's no screwing around with that. And then my plan was just to kind of hang the radiator on here and put a stool in front of it and take it all apart. Or fill up with coolant, I should say. This is gonna leak gas. This is a little, you always see guys doing this at the racetrack. You just pull one float bowl bolt out and it'll drain all the fuel out into like a little paint cap or something like that. Oh man, is that old looking fuel. Whew. But now the bowl's emptied. The other thing is, because we're running a mechanical fuel pump, which is still on the car, we have to put a feed line to the fuel pump itself, which would be very simple to do. So let's take this apart and see what it looks like. Okay, so as you can see here, as this pushes down, that's its little squirt. So this is fine. The problem is going to be the carburetor. So all we'll do is we'll get a little brake clean and some compressed air, and we'll blast it through there. When I was on the car, you could crank it, and it's a little spring on here. The spring was compressing. It wasn't actually moving the little plunger, but obviously this is fine. You can no issues there. It does have blue gaskets on it, which makes me think I've had it apart, unless someone else put those on there. But we'll blast that out. We'll be back together post-haste. Okay, so we're back on the hat cam. I just let the compressor run up, get charged. So these are the tools we're going to need. Airline and some brake cleaner. So these are your jets. So the way this thing's acting is if you rev it and stay into it, it'll rev up, but then just off idle it'll die, which is typically a accelerator pump ordeal. So that little orifice right there is what we're going to have to try and let me spray it in here. Oh, there we go. So it just had some junk in it. It is literally just that simple. Now you can take this right out and get in there and clean it all up, but I think we probably got it here because it's going to flow through now. See, it's dumping out. That's what we want to happen. So we're going to call that fixed. Put all back together. So we'll get set up on the tripod again. We'll hook up coolant, oil, hang a radiator on the front, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how we're going to do the wiring on this thing. Then it's as simple as dumping a fuel line in it, and we'll be running. Okay, so bear with me, I got a little bit of splaining. So we got our battery hooked up now. This is where it looks a little janky, and I get it because I'm using jumper cables, but we'll approach this with an open mind. So, just like normal, your starter will be hooked up to your battery, and then your ground will be hooked up to the chassis or the motor, whatever it may be. So in this case, it goes right around, and we ground it to the block. So we got good ground. Now, this is the magic of the operation. This is the old Muromatic. Now what this does is it has one wire, which is this one right here, 12 volts coming in. And it's a simple, well, it's two switches. A toggle switch, this will go on or off. And this is a momentary trigger switch. This one will be on all the time. So what there are is there's two wires coming out. If I could just hold that. One of them is going to be 12 volts switched. So as you hit the switch, it will put 12 volts to the coil. The other one that's on the momentary switch goes around, and this is the same wire here, but it's the trigger to throw the starter. So that's essentially, if you were in a car and you turned it to the run position and then start, they let start go, and then it would be running, and then you could shut it off. It's just that simple. Great little tool mermaid. We have our fuel supply. Okay, it's not there. All we're going to use is this 1 gallon Windex jug full of gasoline. The radiator is on. This is actually full of coolant. So I filled that full of coolant, that full of gas. So we got coolant in there. It's just sitting on a stool. I don't think it'll bounce into nothing. So at this point, we should be all good. Now, if you look down the carburetor, I'll just show you, we got squirter. So that's good. Oh, return spring, that's an important one right there. Don't forget that. So put the return spring on, and this thing is ready to rock. So I'm going to clean up just a little bit of the gas I spilled, because I did use just a water bottle with a hole in it to fill the carburetor through the vents. We should be ready to rock. This thing should run. Hopefully it won't catch on fire. If it does, fire extinguisher somewhere. But yeah, we'll be right back. We'll get this thing running. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Just one last double check, make sure everything's kind of, it's a little bit of the way of the exhaust, but it's going to be what it's going to be. So, coolant and radiator. We don't have the electric fan hooked up, but if you want to do like a long cam break-in or something like that, you'd literally just have to ground one wire to the block and then run 12 volts to the other, and the fan would work. So this could, break cam in, do whatever you want, like I said. Check for leaks, which we're going to do. Or see if this thing will run. Contact. It might roll. Don't have a dipstick in it, so it's smoking a bit, and it's leaking out the back again, so we'll see what happens. It runs good. It's for sure got a rear main leak, there's no doubt in my mind. Ooh, and some timing. Whew. Well, she's a runner. We'll let her unfog here a little bit. Get right back after it. Oh, look at this monstrosity. It works. It was throwing some oil out of the dipstick tube on the header. So that was smoking. Otherwise, ran fine. Had oil pressure, didn't get too hot or nothing like that. I mean, everything's good. We got coolant in it. So, there you go. I mean, my buddy Toilet Garage, he'll just hang it from a tree around an old hot rod or motor, I should say. But this is like way safer and smarter. On wheels is a little much. Maybe put a chalk under it, but it worked out. I did pull the ring gear off, and in my situation, it is leaking from the rear main seal. But not on the crank. It's almost like the seal to the block or something like that. So, I don't remember when I did it, what I did. Maybe there's some sort of sealant or contact cement or something like that I can put in there. I don't know. Because it was leaking. I changed the seal and it's still leaking. I don't think it's the oil pan. Irrelevant. I'll change them both again. At least now I can do it on, like, you know, lift up on the crane and do it all not in the car. Clean it up really, really good and put it all back together and hope for the best and restart it on my fancy engine stand. But there you go. So this was, I think they sell these like Princess Auto for like 40 or 50 bucks. And the rest is just, I mean, you're going to need in the car anyway. So don't be cheap and do these things. That's what I'm doing for now. I have a bunch of parts. This wagon, if you happen to be just here for this video, this wagon has a small block in it. This motor was in there, like I said. Now small block's in. I got a whole schwack load of parts today from Rock Auto, so I should be able to piece it all together and have this one be a runner driver on the next video. And then I'm bringing in a Nova, 71 Nova SS 4-speed, and it's going to be a big block tunnel ram SS 4-speed car with an oil leak. Thanks for watching. See you later.